Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 18th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see this plume of moisture from the Hawaiian Islands all the way towards the Pacific Northwest, and along it, mid-latitude cyclone development is apparent here, and it's moving towards Pacific Northwest. It's going to bring a strong frontal system and some gusty winds to the region, but in the meantime, we still have the threat of some frozen precipitation, especially east of the Cascades and across the Cascades, some freezing rain potential as well, and very cold conditions east of the Rocky Mountains. We'll dive into all these details as we go through the video here this morning. Taking a look, we are at 95,493, and we were at 61,000 at this time last year. So we're probably headed towards 100,000 subscribers here in the next couple months. Again, thanks to everybody and my supporting channel members. This channel is not possible without you. And if we take a look here, there's some gale warnings along the coast, some light rain moving into southwest Oregon, very cold conditions. Like I mentioned, look at Helen, it's 1 degree and it is snowing. 33 in Spokane this morning. If we take a look at Seattle, it is 7 degrees Celsius, 47 in Portland. And you can see we did warm up a bit across some portions of eastern Oregon, but it's still pretty close to freezing. So be careful out there, especially in the overnight and the morning hours. Look at Billings was snowing this morning in -5 Fahrenheit. Heads up if you were traveling east. Now take a look at Spokane. We have 8 inches of snow on the ground officially on the METAR. You can see it right there, and it's been snowing off and on a little bit this morning, but looks like that is wrapping up. 13.7 inches officially so far for the month of February, and virtually, only 1, 2, 3, 4 days without at least a trace of snowfall so far in the month of February. So pretty snowy February for Spokane, and you can see the 8 inches of snow on the ground there. Now, Seattle, Tacoma, we do have winter weather advisories up for the Cascades. These start tonight. There could even be some freezing rain trapped in some of the valley areas in the Cascades. Same thing for the Portland Cascades as well. So heads up for that. Again, that starts 10 p.m. this evening through noon on Wednesday. And you can see it extend down into the Oregon Cascades again. Now, we do have a freezing rain potential here across some of the Columbia Basin. A lot of this is just going to be plain old rainfall, but some areas still could be cold enough where it is falling as freezing rain here, up to 1/10 of an inch of ice accretion on some surfaces. Again, that starts late tonight and on in through tomorrow, but there could be some additional snowfall amounts as well. Cle Elum 1 to 2, Ellensburg 1 to 2, Spokane another inch, Wenatchee and Chelan maybe getting some snowfall as well. And then when you get across the higher terrain as well, like Lookout Pass 4 to 6 across I-90. Look at Snoqualmie another 4 to 6, Stevens 6 to 8, and some areas around Lake Chelan could be even getting more as you get away from the city a bit there. You could be getting 4 to 6 inches of snow, and you see that 2 to 3 there from Wenatchee as well. And Northeast Washington getting another round of snowfall as we go through the day Wednesday. But look what is to come. Spokane National Weather Service calling attention to this warm, wet, and breezy, increasing snowmelt. You got frozen grounds. Go out there and clear your storm drains around your homes and watch out for the small stream rises and flooding. So with this frozen ground, it does not allow that water to seep into the dirt very well there. And that could lead to some rapid runoff. So be careful for that. Now, snow continues through today for Montana. I want to point this out because it's very cold and snowy out there. If you're headed off across Montana, if you know anybody out there, they know how cold it is right now. But if you're traveling back and forth, be prepared for that. So yeah, this will continue on through the rest of the day today. And another round coming up as you go through Wednesday and Thursday. Now, looking across the country, you can kind of see that extreme cold warning all the way down towards Texas, across Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, and eastern Montana. You can see us here in the Pacific Northwest with our winter weather advisories. So if you want a nice affordable home weather station to record all this crazy weather we get, click on the link down below to save 10% off. Great smartphone app, helps support the channel. You'll have this thing up and running in minutes, literally. So let's take a look at the next 60 hours on the Doppler radar. You can see as we go through about the noon hour, it starts for the Washington coast, some of the Willamette Valley, starts to move its way inland towards the Seattle metro as we go through tonight. And then you'll see the mid-latitude cyclone that we saw in the mid-level water vapor loop pushing towards the Oregon coastline. For some freezing rain and snow possible, again, some of the lower elevations will just be plain old rainfall. But you could get another inch out of this for places like Spokane, and then you can see this pushing across. You go through Wednesday night into Thursday for Idaho and Montana. Continues across some of the Blue Mountains all the way on into the day Thursday. But again, Thursday is kind of a break day for a lot of Washington and Oregon here, and then we go through Friday and probably one more mainly dry day. before we start to turn on the big fire hose here back into the Pacific Northwest. More on that here in a moment. Total snow Couture ratio in inches. You can see some areas, like I mentioned, surrounding Lake Chelan, getting some decent amounts right around Wenatchee across the higher terrain. And maybe Spokane picking up another inch out of this, but definitely more for the higher terrain. And Cascades of Washington, Oregon. Nice round of snowfall coming for the Olympics. Hopefully we get a few sunny days at some point here in the future to see that snow-capped mountain range out there. And you can see southwest BC as well. Now, freezing rain, I want to point this out because you can see that there is some of this accumulating. It doesn't look too widespread, but there could be 1/10 of an inch of glaze out there. So if you do run into some of that, slow way down and take it easy. Do not fall and hurt yourself on the sidewalk. Now, taking a look at the next system. This one's got a little bit of a punch here. This is 12Z data, North American versus GFS on the right. Put this in motion and you'll see this low pressure system deepen, and it's got a pretty good pressure gradient here for the Oregon coastline on the GFS especially. Then you'll see as this crawls up across western Oregon, look at that gradient, try to get in towards the Willamette Valley. That could be bringing 50+ mile per hour gusts into some of the Willamette Valley. And we've been pretty quiet here recently, and so it could bring down some tree branches and cause some power outages and whatnot. Europeans chose something a little bit different. I'll show you that here next, but that could cause some breezy conditions, especially for western Oregon and the coastal areas and even the Willamette Valley. Now looking at the European, this is the latest. So the low's a little bit farther north on the European. Even, we're only less than 36 hours from this event now, and it's still got this discrepancy. This would be a little bit windier for the Washington coast, a little bit of a bent back occlusion trying to bring gusty winds there, and this would bring some gustier winds across the northwest interior and not as strong across western Oregon. So it is a little bit it's a little tough seeing this, that we don't have model agreement just yet. So what I want you to be aware of here is the potential for these gusty winds, 50+ for the coast, 45+ for the Willamette Valley, and an outside chance of some 40 mile per hour gusts for Olympia, Tacoma, and Seattle, and then higher amounts, potentially 50+ for the northwest interior. Some of the Strait of Georgia and southwest BC will get gusty, coast of Vancouver Island. So just keep that in the back of your mind, and we're going to get windy, and we haven't been windy for a while because we've been in this cooler pattern. Now, looking at 100-meter wind speeds, let's take a look at when these winds start. This is right after midnight here tonight. As we go through tomorrow morning, the winds start to pick up along the Oregon coast on the Willamette, or actually on the European model, but not too much for the Willamette Valley. It does show a decent surge here. Southeast winds across the northwest interior, and you can see the bent back occlusion bringing some gusty winds to the Washington coast. A breezy conditions across the Puget Sound, nothing too crazy. This is not a big region-wide windstorm by any stretch of the imagination. But now let's take a look at the NAM 3K. And as we go through tonight, you see the winds really ramp up across the Oregon coast. Look at some of these gusts. You could be getting 50, 60 mile per hour gusts for some individual locations. And then you see this for western Oregon, the Willamette Valley gusting up over 50 miles per hour for some areas. That would cause some potential power outages. And, Portland Metro, mid-40s could equal some problems as well. So we got this model disagreement still at the last moment. But again, just kind of have this heads up as we go through very late tonight and into tomorrow. We have the gusty wind possibility across western Washington, western Oregon, into southwest BC. Now let's take a look at the high resolution rapid refresh. We go through tomorrow morning to pick up along the Oregon coast, and this brings a little bit better surge into some of the Puget Sound as well. 40 for Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, some 50+ for southwest Washington, some gusty winds up the Willamette Valley, Washington, Oregon coast. So yeah, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And look at that, actually bumped it up a little bit more as we went on through the day Wednesday for Seattle. Now, let's take a look at what is to come atmospheric river-wise. Now, this is the GFS. Washington State is way up here to the right. There's the Philippines way back here to the left. And kind of a curiosity that this atmospheric river looks like it's stretching all the way back towards the Philippines. So leave in the comments below what you want to nickname this atmospheric river as. What are the Philippines famous for? Look at that stretch all the way back across the Hawaiian Islands, back towards the islands, all the way towards Southeast Asia. So intense stuff there. And I'll show you some of the models, what they're showing on precipitation amounts here as we continue to get frontal systems after that as well. Now, looking at that GFS, here we go with the system on Wednesday. And again, that potent pressure gradient on the south side of that. Watch out for that sneaker blow as we go through tomorrow, Willamette Valley, Oregon coast. If the GFS is right, that's going to bring some gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour there as we go through the day Wednesday, starting tomorrow morning. So then we take a look at what is next to come. We get this frontal system as we go through Friday night into Saturday. That's quickly followed up with this atmospheric river. You can see I'm clicking through 3-hour chunks, and it continues to rain all the way on in towards next week. And then maybe we'll start to get a break after that, maybe a bit of a pattern change. We'll see how that goes, but we're looking at 200 hours out into the forecast right now. Yeah, I thought I'd show this one more time. I got a couple questions about this picture here, and I may actually try to put some of my images out for sale or whatnot and just to try to sell them, because I do get some questions about people curious to buy some of these images. So let me know what you think on that front as well. Now, looking at total precipitation in inches, I want to show you the GFS. So here we go with the next system, and this is going to bring a decent amount of rainfall here as we go through the day Wednesday. You see, Portland, you're getting up close to an inch of rainfall there. The coastal range is clearly up towards 2 inches or so. And look at, some of the southern Washington Cascades really targeted, but look at some of the rain shadowing across Seattle, Everett, Whidbey Island, some of the San Juans up towards Bellingham there. And then we scroll off in towards Friday. We get another system swinging through that brings another round of rainfall here. And again, you can see the big difference between Seattle and Olympia, for example, or down towards Chehalis and Kelso, Portland Metro. And then the more sinister atmospheric river comes in here, starts to include Seattle in this rainfall. But look at some of these huge amounts. And man, if this atmospheric river, wherever that sets up, is really going to be under the gun for some flooding conditions as we go through this upcoming weekend. And you see the big rain shadowing effects to the east of the mountains as well. It starts to pick back up again once you get across some of the higher terrain. You see Spokane not doing too bad, up over 1.2 inches by the time we get towards the 26th. But yeah, big time rainfall incoming here as we go through this upcoming weekend into early next week. And this is kind of looking at what I showed you, atmospheric river plan view from the top down. You can see integrated vapor transport, kind of a narrow tongue there, pushing up in towards the Pacific Northwest. Cross section here, 3,500 meters up in the atmosphere. And you can kind of see these are lower level air masses here. So these slam into the mountain ranges and you get big rain shadowing effects on the leeward side. Now, taking a look, again, I've been showing this the last few days, so we're going to keep on going over this here, but this is the extended forecast, goes up over 1,100 hours out into the future. I'm clicking one day at a time. You can kind of see the Pacific North American positive oscillation out here with the Gulf of Alaska churning, troughing, bringing the systems back in towards the Pacific Northwest, potentially towards the end of the month. And then we switch things up and we redevelop the ridging here out across the Pacific, the Gulf of Alaska, I should say. And you can kind of see this troughing that continues to show up in the European weeklies here. So maybe we are in for a cool March as well. Will we get really lucky and bring some lower elevation snowfall chances through the month of March? It's not out of the question, but it becomes much more of a long shot. Each day you go on in through February and into March, it becomes more difficult to bring snow into the lower elevations, like for Vancouver, BC, Seattle, Portland, Willamette Valley, and the coastal areas as well. But maybe we can make it a nice snowmaker across the higher terrain, if nothing else. 6 to 10 day. Here we go. Above average across a lot of the west. There's the above average signal. This should be no surprise after what we just looked at. 8 to 14 day as well. And who knows about that? We'll see how that turns out. Again, not doing too hot on snowpack for Washington. Oregon doing much better. Northern Idaho and Montana are a little below average as well. Check before you go on the avalanche danger, because we're going to have another couple of rounds of snowfall coming in here. And then when that atmospheric river rolls in, it's no doubt going to bring some warmer air and probably exacerbate some of the avalanche conditions across the higher terrain. Drought monitor, I don't think they've updated this yet today. They have not. We're doing pretty good here. There's a little bit of moderate drought across Washington, though. Now, this is percent of average precipitation for the last 90 days. We are closing on in here on the end of meteorological winter. That will wrap up at the end of February. So we'll be able to take a look and say, hey, what kind of precipitation did we get? And right now, this is not good for Western Washington, Western Oregon, especially in a La Nina year. We are below normal, above normal precipitation percentages east of the mountains, but it's easier to skew those numbers with, you don't have to have as much precipitation because those areas generally get much less. So it's kind of an interesting signal there. You can even see some of the North Cascades between 25 and 50% of normal, and a lot of the Washington Cascades, West Slope, Seattle are between 50 and 70% of their normal precipitation. You see that little tiny chunk there across the Olympic Mountains there up towards the San Juan, or the Strait of Juan de Fuca. is between 25 and 50% as well. And some areas across some of the Rocky Mountains not doing too hot also. Average temperature departure from average, and you kind of see the mixed bag here across the Pacific Northwest. Definitely brought us down that last cool stretch here since we had since about what mid-January or so, because we were above normal. And for La Nina, this is, you know, I guess you'd call it, you'd expect it to look like this, I guess, when all is said and done. But you might think things would have been a little bit lower than this as far as average temperature. Anyway, but yeah, we'll see what comes here over the next few days because we're going to warm things up a little bit again. So we'll see how this wraps up as we go towards the end of meteorological winter. Sorry, rambling on here a bit, guys. I'll get this video out. Hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, we'll continue to break this down as we go through the next few days. We'll see just who's going to be targeted with those big atmospheric river rainfall potentials here as we go in towards the early portion of next week. But yeah, we'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.